Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Daniel and welcome to my channel. It's spring, people are mowing their lawns, kids are screaming, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to set up your raised garden bed in a way that is almost self-sustaining, in a way where your garden pretty much grows itself. This process involves just a little bit of luck, but for me, it has been going very well. And to explain exactly what's happening in here, I'm just gonna be showing you guys what I found in my garden, what my plans are for this garden, and how you guys can set your garden up to allow this to happen too. So before I dive in and show you what's happening in my garden, I wanna remind all of you beautiful people to hit that like button. And if you wanna see more gardening videos, because gardening season is just getting started and I have so many incredible plans, make sure to subscribe. Let's go ahead and see what is happening in my magical garden. So whenever I say that my garden is growing itself, I'm not even remotely exaggerating. If you look and you see these little green plants growing in my garden, they are not weeds whatsoever. These are actually cucumber plants, and there are more tomato plants that are much harder to see that are growing from the fallen cucumbers and tomatoes from the last season. So to reiterate, I have a bunch of tomato plants and cucumber plants that are growing simply because whenever my tomatoes and my cucumbers fell, or if I picked them and didn't want to use them, I simply left them to rot in my garden, or I put them in my compost bin, and then as time went on, I ended up tilling them into my soil, and then I didn't really even expect this for the cucumbers. I knew that my tomatoes came back every year, but without fail, my tomatoes and my cucumber plants are now growing all throughout my garden. Even though I've already started seeds indoors, I'm super happy about these new growths because these are actually referred to as volunteers. What I can assume about these plants is that they're probably tougher than the general seed start that's pampered, has the perfect water conditions, the perfect temperatures, because I didn't have to do anything for these plants to grow all on their own. They grew of their own volition. I didn't need to help them whatsoever. And so I can assume that these are probably a little bit tougher than your average cucumber and tomato plant. So what are my plans? My plans are to pull some of these plants out, organize them, and space them apart appropriately, because if I just let this garden bed go, they would grow like weeds and kill each other from overcrowding. Before I start pulling some of these bad boys out and putting them in their own little containers, if you want this to happen in your raised garden bed, whenever you're growing cucumbers, maybe zucchini, tomatoes, and you have some fruit that falls down to the ground, feel free to just leave it there. Maybe throw it in your compost bin, maybe throw it in your compost pile, maybe bury it in the ground next to your other plants. And then next season, make sure to till it, maybe add a little bit of nutrients. And then I simply covered my beds in hay to keep the dirt from being sun bleached and to keep moisture in the soil. And then without even expecting it at all of my plants, all of my tomatoes and cucumbers for the whole season have just popped up and are ready to be rehomed. So now that I've expressed just how excited I am about these volunteers, and now you know how to create your own volunteers, let's go ahead and give these cucumbers and tomatoes a new home before I find a proper garden for them. So it's important to note that whenever you pull these plants out of the ground, you want to get as much of the root as possible so that you don't damage the plant. But let's start putting some of these really healthy cucumber plants in some of these smaller containers with the dirt that's already in this garden. So without having to actually plant anything, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cucumber plants, and there's loads more in this garden bed, and 2 tomato plants. And I'm gonna keep my eye out for more tomato plants, and I'm just gonna give these guys a good water now that they're in a new container. And this is just going to be a temporary place for them before I make my full cucumber and tomato garden beds. So that's all I have to share with you guys today. Whenever your cucumbers fall, whenever your tomatoes fall, don't throw them in the trash. Let them continue their natural life cycle. Let them plant themselves. And whenever you have a garden where you have lots of tomatoes and cucumbers just naturally sprouting, just make sure to put them all in an organized, proper location so that they don't overcrowd and that they can actually get enough nutrients for themselves to grow more cucumbers and tomatoes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Once again, if you want to see my full garden explode this summer, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, like this video. And I can't wait to see you guys next time. I'm going to be doing so much more in this garden, but until then, happy gardening.